I'm Prabhakar. I'm the coordinator for this event. I cordially welcome everyone for this webinar session on Technologies for Prosperous Future. This webinar is organized by Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Kamaraj College of Engineering and Technology. Our college is in Madurai district. It's an autonomous college. The Department of Computer Science and Engineering is accredited by NBA. In our college, we run 10 UG programs, 6 PG programs, and we have 7 research centers. Few of the courses are very unique in this part of the world. For example, biotechnology and polymer technology. We have biotechnology starting from BTech, MTech, and with the PhD specialization. I first of all welcome our guest for the day, Engineer Harikishan Enugula. He is an information security analyst from Hyderabad, Telangana. I welcome you, sir. I welcome all the participants for this event. Welcome and good afternoon once again. Let me introduce the guest of honor, Engineer Harikishan Enugula. Engineer Harikishan Enugula has completed his BE Hans in mechanical engineering from BITS Pilani, and he had his postgraduate diploma in management, which is equivalent to MBA, in business administration and management from IIM Shillong. He started his career as an deputy manager design at Hindustan Aeronautics Limited at Bangalore. Then he moved to Deloitte India as an assistant manager, offering consultancy in cyber risk services for various organizations. Then the last position what he had is manager information security at iRadius. We are very lucky enough to have such a rich, experienced industry specialist for our webinar. All the best for the participants. Let us have our session. Hari, over to you.
Thank you for introducing me. Hello, everyone. I hope I'm loud and clear. So I'll be sharing a presentation over here. Without much delay, let us start over here, right? So thanks for providing this opportunity. I'm very honored to interact with all of you here and have this session. We're going to talk about different technologies which are there or which were there and which would help in understanding the career opportunities for all these students. That's the main objective of this session. So with that in mind, this would be the flow of the complete session. First, we'll discuss where were we in the past. Then as is, as in where we are right now. Then we'll talk about future, which is a brand new world. Then we'll talk about different technologies which are going to be there in the system or in the industries for a while. And we'll try to understand how to evaluate these technologies, which technology would be good for any of you guys, individuals, because the same technology might not suit for everyone, either because of the choices or for the appetite and so on. We'll touch a couple of opportunities and we'll see how we can go in depth about a specific technology. Then when we talk about technology, the risk or the security comes along with it. So we would like to spend some time on how secure we are. Post that, we'll see some numbers because numbers speak. So we'll try to see how the numbers are. Then some general do's and don'ts when it comes to the security sense. Then thought process about your career when it comes to the IT and the technologies. At the end of the session, we can have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can have them like noted somewhere so that we can discuss the same in the end. So with that, we'll start. So where were we? You guys can see the image on the right top, right? IBM Ramac. So it's basically a RAM. It's basically a disk storage unit developed by IBM. And you can imagine the size, right? And the capacity that it can hold is 3.75 MB. Can you imagine how good or how long we have progressed so far? We can even see GBs of data in a small pen drive right now. And small external hard disk can hold TBs, terabytes of data. And if you see every day we're consuming 1 to 2 GB of data through your mobile broadband and so on, mobile data or whatever. But this was not the case earlier. This particular storage unit was leased at $3,200 per month. So that was the cost and that's the size of the device at that point of time. But on the contrast, we can see the smallest of the sizes right now. And if you guys have traveled on a plane, or if you have seen how the mechanisms work in an aeroplane, for example, the pilots will be sitting in the cabin and they'll be having one stick using which they'll be doing all the maneuvers, right? So those maneuvers they have to do by pulling the stick or pushing the stick. And previously they were using cable pulley mechanism for that. So they have to put lots of effort to push that handle or the stick to the left to take a left turn. Similarly, if they have to go up, take off or landing time and all, they have to put lots of effort against the wind. So that was the case. But post that got replaced with mechanical linkages. But post that right now, where are we? It is done just at a click of a button. So even you can see the power steering in cars and all. With a small input, the required motion is basically achieved. So if you see the motor vehicles and bicycles and bikes and so on, previously it was all based on gear mechanisms. Of course, we do have that right now as well. But things have progressed much. I'm not sure if you have tried the latest version of the cars where you can put the cars in the cruise mode. For example, in Hyderabad, we have Outer Ring Road, okay? And there the maximum speed allowed is 100 kmph. But people would not like to go slower than that. They cannot go beyond that. So it would be very troublesome for them to hold the 100 kmph, constant velocity all the time. So what would they do? They just put in a cruise mode. At a click of the buttons, they set the settings for 100 kmph and vehicle goes at 100 kmph smoothly. All they need to do is give the directions at the wheel. That's it. That's a great progress over there. If you see the clinical testing or the R&D, previously it used to take lots and lots of years, because for every possibility they have to try end to end and see the end result. Only if they know that the end result is not doing the required result, then they have to go for the different possibility. That was the scenario. But right now, all those combinations or permutations and combinations can be achieved using systems. All those are simulated in different systems. So that is how we are right now. Do you guys know what is a cryptography? So cryptography is like encryption. You might have heard about this word encryption, right? So let's say I have some confidential text which I'm supposed to send to, let's say I'm working in a defense organization, which I was actually in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited previously. So I have to send some secure communication to the headquarters in Delhi. If I have to do that, there could be lots of, the information should be sent over internet, which means in the public domain. So there is a good possibility that things can go wrong. So the people with malicious intent, they can sniff the information which is there in the network and they can see that sensitive information. So how to take care of this? How to encrypt the data? So right now, okay, we have the internet, but how was this done previously? You can see the image on the right down corner, right? There is a big machine and a wonderful lady is working on that machine. There are lots of barrels which have to be rotated appropriately in a specific manner to get the input encrypted text decrypted. Or the same machine can be used for encrypting as well. So this is how it was done during the world wars, where the communication plays a major role, and without that, you cannot have a strategy and you cannot perform a war properly. So these were the machines which were used for encryption or decryption of the data. But right now, if you see how the encryption or the decryption is done, voila, there is no machine at all, because everything is done by using the software. So we have one common CPU which performs all the required operations, and all you need to have is one small software which encrypts the data or decrypts the same. So things have changed a lot. So gone are the days where we have very room level big machines which are performing an activity, but right now small software is able to do that, and lakhs or thousands of those softwares are basically can be put in a very small pen drive for that matter. So this is how things were progressing. Let's see, talk about the as is or the current scenario. So over here, what I'm mentioning are not the age-old technologies, because there are lots of technologies which we are using so far and which are already our working horses. But these are the ones which are basically there right now and very important. For example, you might be coming out of the college after 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. So probably these would be the basics of the things, basic of the things that you have to learn so that you'll be business ready, you'll be job ready. So these are the like hotcakes right now. But when you're gonna come out, these would be like the minimum basic ones. So robotic automated inventory management. Let's say there is a big in manufacturing industry, or let's talk about Amazon warehouse. So now that lockdown is almost down, we are in unlocked down one. So lots of Amazon or Flipkart deliveries are happening, right? All those inventories are basically kept in big warehouses, and they basically handle lakhs and lakhs of, if not crores, of deliveries every day. Are you expecting them to be done manually? If they make one simple mistake, let's say you have ordered a phone of, let's say, 15,000 rupees worth, and they have by mistake sent an iPhone, it's not your mistake. So they cannot claim back or force you to give that phone back. So how to avoid these kind of things? They need to have Six Sigma processes in place. But having humans who can be possibly exhausted after lots of activities and all, it would be very difficult for them to handle. That is when they can have robotic automated inventory management, where all the order data can be given to these robots, and these robots in turn will go into the inventory channel. There they pick the right inventory and give it at the right station so that you can get the phone that you have ordered. So that's the robotic process I'm talking about here. Then we have internet right now. So that was not there previously. And you want to see the number of Indian users as of May 2020. So this is the figure. Too many zeros, right? So we have evolved probably from that ape, and ultimately we are sitting in front of computers like right now, and that's how we are evolving. I don't know whether it's good or bad. I don't know if that is the evaluation pattern or not, but that is how things are. So we have 560 million people, unique internet users in India as of May 2020. And this number, if you see the graph on the right side, it basically says the percentage of the internet using population in India. So in 1992 and so on, it's close to zero. It's something like 0.0001 types. But if you see till the figures 2016, it is 29.5, which means less than 1/3 of the population of India basically having access to internet. But I'm pretty sure right now the figures are not like that, especially because of Zio. When Jio came, lots of people got access to internet, and especially during the COVID times, lockdown and all, most of us would be, accessing lots of things over internet. So this particular percentage might go up to 40 or so. So with that, let us take one step back. Let us talk about the third line item, which is fingerprint locks. So these fingerprints that we have are almost like unique. When I say almost, like, there could be a copy of the same fingerprint for someone else as well, but in general, they're like very, very, very unique. So if we have such a unique mechanism in our fingertips, why go? I was talking about fingerprint locks, where the technology has gone up to such a level where we can use our fingerprint to unlock the locks. You don't need to have a separate key for that. Suppose that we have smart digital assistants. It could be that Apple Siri or the OK Google that we guys use, or it could be the Cortana, which is developed by Microsoft, or a lot more other customized ones. We're also talking about Amazon Echo or Echo Dots, where they're like sitting at the corner of a room and they're supporting us as a proper digital assistant. They're like our personal assistant. They can make a note of any schedule that you want them to do. You can even ask them to block a appointment for, let's say, dentist or something. This is what exactly Google has demonstrated in one of their interview. Okay. So that is the level of digital assistants that we have right now. We have real-time monitoring. I'm not just talking about Google traffic, which is basically Google Maps. Even for tracking of goods. So since long time, we have the speed post tracking. So any Zomato that you have order or Swiggy item, you can track them, live tracking. Okay. So it's not just that. When we talk about Internet of Things, you're going to attach one sensor to all the goods, to all the vehicles and so on, and you can monitor them at one common location. So that is the real-time monitoring that we have come to. Of course, the IoT is yet to develop further, but we're already there. We already have pilotless vehicles. So there are drones who takes video surveillance, or even delivers couple of small items and all. We have pilotless cars. Of course, they are in testing phase. They're already there out, but there are some challenges because of the infra challenges with respect to roads and others we have. So, but cars are already there. So pilotless rockets. So we have pilotless things to be done at different levels. You know what? I was working in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, right? I was closely working with ISRO as well. So when I work with them, the biggest challenge that ISRO or the defense military aircraft design is how to ensure that the humans have sufficient comfort when the flights are going at such a rapid speed. You guys might have heard about hypersonic flights, right? Which is like the flights are moving at more than 5 times the speed of sound. For example, recently in Bangalore, some weird sounds were heard, right? And later it was found that IAF was testing something. So how can a human support or live up to such a kind of pressure? So that is the challenge there. But when we go for pilotless kind of a vehicle or rocket or defense equipment, you don't need to worry about human comfort, and hence the vehicles can be designed even for a much greater maneuverability and attack speeds. We have already augmented reality right now. It's already there. We can use some games or even 4D, 5D movies and other things are there, but still, next level augmented reality is being thought through. Blockchain. This is the new kid in the block. So blockchain is a new technology right now. So mostly it is used in cryptocurrency, but it's not just for cryptocurrency. It's about security. So highest possible security for confidential data can be achieved through blockchain. So if you or your relatives are going to come out to the industry for job and all, blockchain is the hot cake right now. speech recognition, fingerprint recognition. So these are becoming the basics right now, right? If you see in any of the mobile phones, fingerprint unlock is a basic feature in most of the smartphones right now. And if you're talking about using your smartphone or anything, the speech recognition is already there. So when you're, let's say, uh, you have seen even Rajnikant's movie, right? Where the laptop cannot be opened unless Rajnikant says those magical words. So that is the speech recognition that I'm talking about. And finally, and most importantly, e-learning. So now in the post-lockdown and COVID world, we should mostly adopt this e-learning. And e-learning is already there. We have smartphones, smart apps, Byju's and other people, they're offering some solutions to achieve this objective. And even right now, this discussion we are having right now is basically part of e-learning. So these are the different technologies. So this is where we are right now. And these are things are already there. So by the time you guys come out of the college, you should be able to like learn all these things and you should be like having this in the fingertips, right? With that, let us see what beholds us in the future. So these are going to be the 4 pillars based on which the future will be. So improve comfort for the humans. Any new technology should be commercially viable. Let's say you have an awesome technology, but it pretty much costs a bomb that you cannot develop it. You have an alternative, cheaper option, then people might not want to go for this technology. Let us talk about digital cameras. Previously, when Kodak has created new digital technology and all, people were not ready at the time. And Kodak went back. And the rest of the world or rest of the competitors have done a good job and they are into this space right now. So even if you're inventing something and all, it should be commercially viable. So it should be long lasting. You cannot develop a technology by spending, let's say, tens of years and the technology goes away in 1 year. That's it. So that kind of a short-lived technology cannot sustain. So it should be there for a long time. So automation and scalability. These are again 2 important aspects whenever you're developing a new solution or you're going for a new technology. So essentially, these are the 4 pillars. So right now, these features are there in the R&D phase. People want to create artificial brain. It's not there yet. People are thinking through it's in the R&D phase. So once we have that, probably all we need to do is just sit in a chair and buy one artificial brain and let it do our jobs. And guess what? Again, when this new technology comes into picture, there is one apprehension that people think if these new technologies are going to come into place, if they are scalable in nature, which means if the work is increasing, the technology should be able to adopt and support them. So if the new technologies are coming, they're not going to replace the humans. Humans have the ingenuity to learn new things and think new. So even if the new technologies are going to come into the industry, they cannot replace humans. Humans might not be doing the routine, mundane jobs because these routine jobs will be done by the machines and creative works will be done by the humans. So we cannot just sit idle and learn the basic languages or basic works so that you can do the routine jobs, because those routine jobs will not be available in the future. So the technologies are improving, so we should be there at that level. Next, I talk about civic technology. So I can talk about this IoT, where the traffic light, traffic signals, or even the lights, street lights and all, or the roads, if they're like gone during the rainy season or whatever, the feedback should go automatically to the corresponding authority so that they can come and renew the roads or something. Or all these things should be done automatically with technology driven. Right now, that is not happening there are lots of humans or people who are doing that job. Hybrid forensics. So these forensics, I'm not talking about just the post-mortem of the body and all. I'm talking about the cyber frauds or data leakages and so on. There are lots of scenarios where data leaks are happening. So that is where this is pretty important. So next is optic computing. So all of you guys use mobile data for downloading movies, I guess, or having video calls with your friends or colleagues and so on. If that is the case, you might know that we have some limitation when it comes to the speed of the data transfer. That is essentially because of the limitation of the equipment that we are using. But when it comes to optic computing, we're planning to go beyond that limit in the hardware. We're going to create a new hardware which will further increase the speed of the data. So for that, lots of testings are being done. There are a couple of tests which happened almost 1 month back, where they were able to go to a speed where you can download 500 movies in 1 minute. That too high quality prints. So that is the level of technology that we are going to go through. Self-recognize, configuring modular robots. We already have robots, and we already have robots in working scenario right now. There are some robots, or there are some hotels, restaurants where there are no waiters. When people order the items will be served by the robots automatically. But it is basically one way. They're basically learned, or they're doing what they were told to. That is the current technology. But when it comes to the future, it's not just going to be like you say something and they do something. It's going to be like they will understand what should be done. They'll configure themselves and go to the next level and perform a particular activity. So that's what when I meant by self-reconfiguring modular robot. Interstellar travel. So this is something which is like there in the thoughts of these scientists since long time, that we want to travel across the stars at such a high speed so that we'll be able to see how things are in the grand space, or we want to understand how the earth got created, or other stuff like that. So this is the brand new world that we're talking about. So I have given very few examples over here, but any industry if you take, IT is an integral part, because scalability and automation is the basic thing. Without this, they cannot go to the next level. So with that, we'll talk about a couple of technologies which are very important right now. So I'm not sure if whatever I have told you till now is interesting or not, but this particular slide is pretty important because this is very important in the job world. If you're talking about going for a job after your graduation, this particular slide is very important. If you're planning to have your own startup after this graduation, this slide is very important. If you're gonna support your home, or if let's say you have your own business which your dad or mom or your relatives are running, this particular slide will be of very helpful for them. Okay, so let us see what this slide holds. So these are the different technologies which are there right now. Artificial intelligence. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're talking about a scenario where it's not just an automation. Automation basically means that I have to do one routine task 100 times. Let us say we have a very big, let's say we have a very, in Chennai, we have a KFC shop, not the outlet, retail outlet, but it's the back end where they cut the chickens. So in the manual scenario, people manually have to cut each leg at a time, or appropriately. But if we automate it, let us say there is going to be a machine where the chicken will be provided to them, and machine will cut automatically after every 2 seconds. So this is automation, or basically doing repetitive mundane jobs. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, no, we're not talking about this routine stuff. We're talking about more than doing things more than that. For example, I'll give you a couple of simple example. I'll go to Google. I'll do some search about a particular flight travel between Chennai to Hyderabad, let's say, and post that I go to a different portal, let's say some other online portal where I'm browsing some news and so on. Immediately I'll get some alerts or advertisements which says there are lots of discounts for the hotels in Hyderabad. So please click here if you want to book any hotel. So how is this being basically done? So when I'm browsing or searching for booking a flight from Chennai to Hyderabad, that particular information is captured and it is sold for these sellers, for the advertising agencies. And those agencies are basically using that information dynamically and real time and giving us ads about hotels in Hyderabad. So this is a very real time scenario. Or I can also, let's say I can have a supermarket where I track all the purchases of different people. So let's say I see that a particular person is buying new utensils or all basic equipment which are supposed to be there in a newly moved house. I can imagine that probably that guy is new to the city or new to the new area. He might have changed his place. So in that case, what are the other items that can sell them? So I can send an SMS or WhatsApp them a particular advertisement about, let's say, new table which they can have in their hall. So I can have this customized ads. This AI is basically everywhere. The implementation or the application is everywhere. Let's talk about machine learning because of the shortage of time. So machine learning is basically a subset of AI. So machines are in machine learning there are two types. One is normal learning, second is self-learning. So when I talk about machine learning, we program a machine so that it can program itself to do new activities. If we talk about a default set of programming, it can only do programming so that machine can perform a specific task. But if a new task is supposed to be done, machine cannot do it because it don't know how to do it. But if I can design a machine where it can program itself to deal with a new activity, that is where the machine learning is coming into picture. So I was doing this deep learning or back propagation algorithms. I was working on those things during my graduation. So what exactly is being done here? Let's say I have, okay, I'll give you a scenario so that makes easy or makes more sense. Let's say I'm a bank and I basically give loans for people to buy bikes, two-wheelers. But if I keep on giving loans, when I'm not sure whether they're gonna pay me back or not. So when a particular person approaches me for a vehicle loan, I will do due diligence. I check certain stuff. Only based on that, I will take a decision whether to give the loan or not. So using AI or machine learning, basically, I can create an application where using the past data, let's say I have thousands of previous applications where I have either given the loan or not given the loan. I give that data to this new machine. I ask it to learn. Basically, I create a system where it has learned that data so that, let's say, new application comes for a vehicle loan. Based on the past data, the machine will make a decision whether to give this loan to the new application or not. So that is one. And second, let's say a second person is coming for a new loan. The first loan application and the corresponding decision that I have taken, whether to give loan or not, will also be added. So previously I have 100 data points, and the first application is also become one of the data points. So I have 101 data points. Based on these 101 data points, I'll make a decision for the second applicant. So basically what is happening here, my machine is learning and growing. Based on the new data points which I'm getting, my algorithm is growing and updating itself. Based on that, it is making a decision. So that is how the machine learning works. Robotic process automation, we kind of touched it. So automation is there. We have robotic stuff. I code them in such a way that they go and perform the activities, because logistics is one of the evergreen industry. So without automation and without proper robotic automation, it cannot be growing, or it cannot be a scalable solution. So that is why RPA is already there. So cloud computing or the edge computing. So I'm not sure if you guys have already gone through this cloud computing concept, but let me put it in simple terms. Previously, or even right now, you might be having your mobile phone or landline or laptop right now, or desktop, using which you're having this session. Okay. Which means your system is having RAM, hard disk, processor, and everything. Let's say your hard disk is 500 GB or 1 TB. So you have to use this hard disk for storing the data, and you have to use this processor for processing, or you're opening 10 browsers, or you're watching a movie in the laptop. So for all these things, processor should run in the background. But when it comes to companies, so they cannot buy lots of machines, and they cannot do all these things whenever it is required. Okay, I'm telling one more. This concept is very important. So I'm reminding you guys again. This is very important, especially if you want to go for startups later. So let us say you want to create a new company, and when you're going for a new company, you don't want to spend too much money for creating lots of infrastructure. Let's say you don't know how to spend for different servers and so on. So how to achieve this? We have cloud computing or cloud service providers. For example, Amazon Web Services, AWS, is one of the vendor. We have Azure from Microsoft. This is another vendor. We have Google Cloud, third vendor. We have Oracle Cloud, fourth vendor. These are the topmost international cloud service providers. These cloud providers provide the processing power, hardware, and everything. All you need to do is create an account. And creating an account is just like creating a Gmail account or any other registration for that matter. And guess what? If you go to aws.training, so yeah, oh, how should I put it? So I can put it like this. So AWS, for example, as I was mentioning, it is one of the cloud service provider, and it is giving free service or free resources to individuals if they are willing to learn. So all you need to have is one Amazon account, using which you can actually have 1 TB of hard disk which is there in the online, and you don't need to maintain, you don't need to update the OS or whatever. It will do all those things at their end, and all you need to do is use a browser to log in and access that. So this is essentially cloud computing. Or if I want to give a simpler example, Gmail that most of you guys might be using is a simple example of cloud computing. So you store all your emails, even your mobile images and so on in the Google Cloud, and you can access it through any device or across any geography. You don't need to access the data only through your mobile or your laptop. You can access that from a different country, from different laptop or different system. You can just connect to the internet, log in with your credentials, and you can access all the data. This is the perfect example of cloud computing. But what I gave you is a small example of the definition. When it comes to the startup or big companies, this is a very essential right now. All the startups go for cloud computing. Let us talk about Flipkart Big Billion Day sales. You guys might have tried purchasing lots of things during Flipkart Big Billion Day, or even that Amazon, whatever sales days, right? So during that 1 week of time, lots of people like you and me would like to go and buy lots of things in the Flipkart. So during this small period of time, there will be lots of traffic on Amazon website. So to handle this kind of traffic, they cannot purchase lots of hard disk or hardware for this, because after 1 week, after the sales is done, what will they do with this hardware? It cannot be of any use. So instead of purchasing the software, they can go for this cloud computing, so that you can increase or decrease your subscription. You can pay as you use. Let's say before Big Billion Day, Flipkart might be using, let's say, 100 terabyte of data hard disk. It will only pay for 100 terabyte. Let's say for this 1 week Big Billion Day, from 1 terabyte or 10 terabytes, they go for 20 terabytes. They'll be paying price for 20 terabytes for those 1 week. After that, again, they'll go back to the previous thing. So this is like pay as you use. So this is the cloud computing. So let us kind of skip a couple of things because we're short on time. So you guys can see different languages which are there right now and on the bottom, right? C, C++, Core Java, VB.NET, ASP.NET, HTML, SQL, Oracle, SAS, R, Google Script, and so on. So basically, okay, so I have done mechanical engineering from BITS Pilani. I'm not from a computer science background, but still, these are the different languages that I have done, that I have either done by going into online sources or went to physically attend sessions and get a certificate, or do projects, so that I am very well versed with all these things. So me being a non-computer science engineer have done all these things. For example, C have done between the +2 and engineering break. C++ Java I have done during the SEM break in the engineering first year. VB.NET, ASP.NET in the second year. And MySQL and Oracle are basically used as a backend when I am working on ASP.NET. I have done a project where I was creating a HTML website to one of my college professor for a course. It's a course website. So I learned HTML for that. SAS and R basically are the statistical tools to deal with big data. So right now I was using Google Docs, where I'm using Google Spreadsheets to do some magic over there. I have to learn Google Script and use it there. Python is again very high level machine language, where we learn we use it at a high level. Since I'm from mechanical engineering background, CNC programming is one of the where I create this code, I give it as an input to one machine, which does all the machining using that particular code. So I've done all that. So if me being a non-computer science engineering have done all these things because of my own interest, you should be able to understand how important it is if you are going into a cyber security world later. Right now, I'm basically working as a cyber security professional. Okay, so I'm not from the CSC background, but still I'm in the IT world. Not just me, lots of people out there, irrespective of which domain that they are into, ultimately will be working on computer science or the IT backgrounds. So I'm not sure whether you can join or you will be joining computer science engineering, but irrespective of that, you should be knowing lots of technologies or the basics of the languages. Let me tell you guys a secret over here. I'm not sure if you guys have already started learning different languages, you might not, feel that this is a big thing that I have learned all these things, but you have not started. You might be thinking that I have done, or I might have put lots of effort in learning all these things. Well, the answer is partially yes, but the actual answer is no. The secret is, as long as you have in-depth knowledge in one language, you can use that expertise in learning other languages very easily. Because there's a pattern. Everywhere it starts with defining variables. For example, C language, how to define variable in C. So Java, there will be declaration of variables. VB.NET, it will be there. So irrespective, Python, there will be there. So wherever you go, there will be declaration of variables, which is the basic stuff. Post that there will be for loops, while loops. Post that there will be combination of searching and so on. So the same algorithms, probably you might be having a better way to declare, you might be having better way or better loops there, or there could be some predefined functions where you don't need to create those functions from the scratch. So all that is there is basically more or less same across different programming languages. So what I'm trying to say is, you might not, I don't want you guys to go to n number of languages all of a sudden. So I am having what, after engineering, 9 years of experience. So in these 9 years, I have learned these many, and trust me, this is not sufficient for myself. I will be learning a lot more because learning is a continuous process. But what I'm going to suggest you is spend some quality amount of time in certain categories of languages. For example, C is a linear programming language. C++, Java are object-oriented languages. VB.NET, ASP.NET, these are event-driven programming languages. So probably you can spend good time in each of these categories for one specific programming language. For example, take C. I mean, in linear programming language, take C. In object-oriented programming, let's say you take core Java. In event-driven programming, you can start with, let's say, VB.NET or something. Then for developing web, basically web development technologies, go for PHP or no ASP.NET or HTML. Go for one specific programming language. Go in depth. After going into a specific language, it would be very easy for you to go to the next programming language. Okay. So with that, let us go. Yeah. So let me tell you something about bug bounty. Okay. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about these headlines which came 1 week back, where one of the Indian got 75 lakhs of rupees because he has identified one small login problem in Apple login page. So he was able to identify one small issue in the development, and company gave basically $1 million. I'm not sure if you're gonna get that much money if you're doing a job, routine job, or I'm not sure if you can earn that much money all of a sudden, even if you're going by your own company. So big bounty is such a scenario which is basically part of cyber security, where you will learn all these languages, where you will learn all the kind of technologies, at least the basics, and you will spend good amount of time in some of the technologies. You go in depth and see if there are any loopholes in the systems. For example, there is a website which is almost like Flipkart. Let's say I log in into this Flipkart. I want to purchase, let's say, a mobile phone for 35,000. So what is the default process? I add to the cart, I go to the final purchase option where I say, okay, go ahead. Then I have to pay 35,000, and then I give the delivery details and so on. And then once I give the OTP or whatever, the booking is done. But there are some tools, security tools, where if I use that tool, I can change that 35,000 to 100 rupees or even to 1 rupee. So using the tool, I'll do the transaction, I'll complete the transaction for 1 rupee only, which means I'll get the mobile phone for 1 rupee itself. The mobile phone will be delivered to me, but I'll be paying only 1 rupee. This is basically because the portal is having a vulnerability. It's not designed properly. So using that loophole, using this software, I'm able to, get the transaction done for 1 rupee itself. So that is the level where I can go. If I can report these kind of vulnerabilities to the parent company, for example, let us say this issue is with the Flipkart. I tell this to the Flipkart, Flipkart might pay me. This is basically called bug bounty program, where I search the bugs and go ahead further. Now the question is, okay, we have seen different technologies, where to learn these technologies and what to do next is the point. So the complete world is in our hands right now, because we have internet, data is cheap right now. And it's not just that. This MOOC, mass online no courses, or where the all big universities across the world, Harvard University, or what are the big university, you name it, it is basically part of this mooc.org. It's a mass movement where all the lectures, course details are available in that website. Let us say I am from computer science background. I want to learn a particular course which is basically taught in Harvard University. I can log in, register myself and log in into this mooc.org. I can browse and get that presentation which is given by the professor at Harvard. Similarly, there are lots of other universities are basically part of this movement where I can get all the college material through this website. The w3schools.com, let me show you how it this is how it looks like. So this is where I have learned the HTML and other basics. Okay. So using this w3schools.com, okay, I think you guys are not watching this. Let me reshare. Okay. I guess you guys are able to see my screen right now. So this is the w3schools.com website. So it is a very easy kind of learning over here. You don't need to even start from the basics and all. You will see automated code here. After writing the code here, you just click here. It will show what will happen. See, this is the code and this is the output. I make changes here. When I click here, I make changes here. So this is how you develop a HTML website, and this is how the output looks like. You can see the output right away. You can immediately check whether your application is working properly or not. Okay, so you can see all the hashtags and href or whatever. Let me see if I remember something which I tried long time back. Forgot, let me see. Okay, I'm supposed to give the source somewhere over here. I forgot here. See, so I can give hyperlinks here and so on. So this is how I can learn using this w3schools.com. You can learn all these languages for free, that too at a self-paced manner. Whenever you have time, you can go through each of the tutorial. It gives description of all the operators, gives examples. It has all the codes and so on. So if I am you, I'm not going to waste this lockdown time. So I can see lots of people learning lots of things during this COVID lockdown. If I'm not going to learn, others are going to learn, and this is a very competitive world, it will be very troublesome for me. So that is the kind of scenario that we are in. So let us go back here. So this is the w3schools.com. You might have already saw or registered yourself in Coursera, EDX, Khan Academy, or there are lots of free blogs, or even Wikipedia is there, where you can get lots of information, first-hand information. But when it comes to Wikipedia, be careful a little, because anyone can edit the data in Wikipedia. So you should be very careful when you trust the data, because it's not a trustworthy source. Next, I want to talk about certifications. So certificates are very important in the job world, because there are lots of open online courses and all. I can always claim that I know n number of things. So instead of putting these list of items, I can add 20 more items here. But I'm not wrong as well. And if I'm going to do that, how companies are going to evaluate who is the right person or who has right knowledge or stuff? That is where certifications comes into picture. The certificates ensure that all the prerequisites are taken care of. Then you know how to do the basic declaration of variables, using for loops, you know how to do certain level of search or whatever algorithms and so on. So that is where you have certain level of understanding about a programming language. So you particularly do a certification on a technology, That certificate ensures or tells that you know it properly, that technology. So there are free certificates available as well. Most of the certifications available are coming with a cost, but there are some websites which are offering free certifications. Especially right now in the COVID world, lots of these online courses are basically providing free certifications. Don't miss this opportunity. Go for it. Okay, let us skip. Let us spend 2 minutes time on this. This slide is pretty important. Whenever you talk about any technology, these are the different aspects of the technologies that you should look at. You should understand the background of that particular technology, as in who developed it or what is the purpose of that. You have to learn the basics and you have to use lab exercises. For example, W3 Schools basically gives the lab exercise the browser itself, where I can change the code and click on run button. I can see how the end result would be. Or I have to install some other softwares to evaluate how my code or program is working out. I have to use different tools for proficiency. If I'm talking about big data and all, I cannot use just an Excel or browser to do that. You need to have high machine or high processing solutions, softwares, and so on. For example, if I talk about data visualization, Tableau is one of the software which is best of the industries right now. So there are even jobs for management graduates who will be owning one tool called Tableau, Tableau. So you should know these tools very well. Then you should know the application of the technology. You cannot just learn the technology because I love coding. You should know where that particular technology can be used. For example, if I talk about Python, in the cyber security world, in the processors and so on, Python can be used. For automation of information gathering and all, Python can be used. For example, every day you want to open news and you want to see how the news is. But if you write a piece of code and if you run the code, all headlines of the newspaper will be fetched automatically and will be shown in a Word or Excel or something. You can create such a code using Python. That is the application, one of the application of Python. Next is you have to do end-to-end projects or internships using technology. For example, when I was working on ASP.NET, I was creating a application where it is used for road transport authorities, RTA. It is for applying for driving license and so on. I was using Oracle as the backend, ASP.NET as the front end, and so on. So it should be end-to-end project, and at times the project might not give us good enough exposure. That is when you have to do internship with multiple organizations. Because organizations have practical purpose and all, you'll be able to learn things in a better fashion there. Next and very important thing is demand in the industry. You should not be learning a particular language because you love it. In the end, it should help you as well in the career wise or otherwise. So you should know how the demand is for that particular technology. How to check this? Even any new technology or the one which is in demand will be highly sought after. Lots of people will be searching for it in the Google. So you can go for Google search latest technologies or technologies in demand. You'll get that data. Or you can go for different job portals like Naukri or Monster or other portals where you can see different jobs which are there and which technologies are being asked for. So you can get all that. Next is certifications. Any technology, whether certification is required for that or not. If yes, then from where should I get the certificate? Because lots of companies would be giving or offering certificates for different money. So since you are paying, you should know which certificate is important or at what level. So you should be doing proper due diligence before doing certifications. Similarly, there are different technical discussion forums where these forums will talk about where we should go for certification or whether demand is there or not or so on. These discussion forums or when you get in-depth expertise in any of the technology, that is where you will understand the demand and you will be doing a very good job. So in short, these are the evaluation parameters whenever you try to go into a particular technology. For example, I was talking about these technologies, right? for each of the technologies, you should do evaluation based on all these parameters. Once you're done with that evaluation, you can decide on 2 or 3 technologies and start learning those 2 or 3 technologies. So that's how probably we should go forward. So I kind of know that we're kind of short of time. We're done with 1 hour. Let me go through important things, because from here on, it is important whether it's a career level or job oriented or at a personal level. Okay. So let me take you through this. There is a company called Equifax. This company is like Sibyl in India. This Equifax is a company in America, and it basically captures all the personal data and financial data for all the individuals. And there was a data leak in 2017, because of which lots of data got leaked. So almost data of 1/3 of the population of America was leaked. So such a huge amount of data was leaked, and it was a very troublesome situation for people. Yahoo at one point of time is the king of internet. In 2000, it was valued at $125 billion. But later, it was sold at less than $5 billion to Verizon. Where is $125 billion? Where is $5 billion? Why? What happened? Because Yahoo credentials were leaked. So because of this, Yahoo company's valuation gone down. So there are lots of phishing emails and all happening right now. Privacy of billions of citizens are at stake, because even for India also, lots of other related data is already out there. It is there in the black market right now. And you can see data leaks every other day. There was one scenario which happened in February 2020, where someone sent an email to a company saying, I am the CEO, so I want you to do a particular task for me. An employee has transferred hundreds of crores because of that email. Later, it was found that the email actually came from not from the CEO. It is basically a phishing email, because of which hundreds of crores was lost from that company. And in 2018, SBI card migration happened, where SBI said all the previous debit cards and credit cards will not work. It should be migrated to a chip-based credit card. And using this opportunity, lots of fraudsters, they started calling people as if they are from SBI, and this they gave all this sensitive information and OTPs and so on, and there was a huge loss to lots of employees. Even one of my friend's father, he lost 2 lakhs because of this. So we'll talk about another scenario where there is this cryptocurrency, which is a digital currency right now. It is something similar to our rupees or American dollars and so on, but you cannot hold it physically. It is only there in the systems and accounts in a digital format. This cryptocurrency, in one of the cryptocurrency company, the company head was dead all of a sudden because of some natural health related issues. But because he has not shared the password anywhere, that is a very critical password, all the cryptocurrency was kept secretly, and that cannot be given back to the right owners. Because of this, all the people who have deposited the cryptocurrency in this particular company, they were at loss. I was talking about other leakages, or even during the moratorium period right now. In COVID-19, government has RBI has offered moratorium. Even in this moratorium period, there are lots of fraudsters who are calling people and giving examples about moratorium and fooling people. So when I see about all these things, the question arises, are we secure enough? So there is a statement, there is a fact which says, if you give your mobile phone to a hacker for 30 seconds, he can hack your mobile phone. All he needs is 30 seconds. That's it. So be careful. Don't share your mobile phone with or any other sensitive information to any other person. So this is the kind of world that we are in. In 2020, in 60 seconds, almost 1.3 million people are logging into the Facebook. 4.7 million videos are being viewed. So TikTok, 14,000 downloads. So any shopping and all, $1.1 million spent online. So 4.1 million research searches queries. Basically, this is an estimation. I have tried what is the actual figure 2 days back. I found that is actually 4.6 million searches per day. So that is the kind of scenario that is happening. So we are talking about such a huge numbers, huge, technology or the technologies which are behind all this is humongous. The servers, the people who are behind maintaining such big servers and providing services is humongous. You can understand that, right? In 60 seconds, if let's say 4.1 million people are searching, how are the machines are going to respond to that? So, and if one server is down or one mistake happens, all those 4.1 million searches will go to a toss, right? So these are some generic do's and don'ts. So antivirus in your system, keep it updated. Ensure that your system or the mobile and all has proper configurations or firewalls. Any website that you're visiting, or even the Microsoft update or any software updates that your mobile is having or your laptops or desktops are having, ensure that they are up to date. Don't share your credentials at all, even to your friends and relatives. Be very careful. Whenever you're keying in any sensitive data in online portals, ensure that there is a green HTTPS there. Otherwise, you never know whether there could be a man in the middle attack where the information can be sniffed and used for a different purpose. So before closing the session, I want to give you a thought process. So when you will be studying different technologies in the future, or when you're coming out of the college, I want you to ask at least these questions. Which technology will be in demand? Search for that. Don't learn a technology because your friend suggested it or your professor suggested it. Do your homework, search whether it is in demand or not. What certifications are sought for? So companies, if you're planning to go for a job, which certifications are asked by different companies? Go again, do homework and perform those certifications. It will be of use. And trust me, don't wait for the certifications till the end. Do the certifications as early as possible. Target roles that suit your forte. So if you're good at something, let's say you might be good at backend, database related. You might be good at website development. You could be good at data handling. You could be good at a new product feature. Let's say you can create your own Facebook later. So if you're good at creating a new company, you can create your own thought process like that. Ultimately, what should happen is your resume basically means one page format where it shows all your skill sets, academic credentials, projects, and everything in one single page. Whenever you apply for job, companies look at this resume and based on that they'll shortlist you. So your resume should be better every next day. Every day you should learn something new so that when you're creating your resume, you're adding one extra skill set to that. So if you keep on doing that, you will be standing out. You will be like outstanding person. That is when your resume will be highlighted and the companies will look at your resume and they'll call you for next level discussions. During my graduation, I used to do only one internship during my graduation. But nowadays I see that students automatically and on their own are doing lots of internships. They're not limiting themselves to what college is asking for. One of my colleague, junior in BITS planning, he has already done 4 internships and he pinged me over LinkedIn for requesting for internship. So I feel that this is a very good way in learning because learning, let's say using W3 schools or online portals is one thing, but doing internship is next level. So that is where you have to get in touch with the industry and grow further. I hope I have not eaten your brain so much. So without questions, we cannot go to the idea. So at this point, I would like you to ask any questions that you might have. So if you see this website, basically we all use passwords, right? This website basically tells us how weak or strong our passwords are. Let's say I'm typing something. Capital A, capital H, small r, small I. Hurry. If my password is Hari, it basically says that my password can be compromised or cracked within 200 microseconds. So I'm writing Hari Kishan. So if it is Hari Kishan, it says it takes 1 month for cracking that password. I'm adding one special symbol at the rate. Hari Kishan at the rate. Just by adding one at the rate, that special symbol, from 1 month it went to 97 years. See the difference, right? One extra from 1 month to 97 years. So that is why passwords are important and password complexity is very, very important. Whether it is your personal account or in the future any commercials and so on, commercial accounts, ensure that you are having secure passwords and don't share your passwords. So thank you.
Hari, there are few questions.
Okay.
Is there any free online course for cyber security? That is the question asked by Yogarajan.
Cool. Yogarajan, that's a very good question. And before going to the answer, I want to let others know what is cybersecurity. So we have lots of technologies which we are developing, right? Whether it's automation, AI, machine learning, web development, Flipkart kind of websites, and so on. So all these websites, they might have some loopholes. So cybersecurity professionals basically study these technologies and they identify the loopholes. And once they find the loopholes, they either fix those loopholes or tell the developers and so on, so that those loopholes will be closed by the developers. That is the job of cybersecurity professionals. There are white hat hackers, black hat hackers, and gray hat hackers. So black hat hackers are basically people with a malicious intent. It is illegal to do hacking without proper authorization. So before going there, you have to do proper certification and learn lots of stuff. And coming to the answer, all those examples that I gave, for example, Coursera or Edureka, EDX, and all those websites have lots of courses on cybersecurity. And the basic certification course, which is like very basic, is Certified Ethical Hacker, CEH. So if you're interested in cyber security, the first course, the basic course or the certification that you should be doing is Certified Ethical Hacker, CEH. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, there is one more question. Sar Mista Basu. What are the dangers of artificial intelligence?
Good. So this is something which is contemplated or discussed by lots of people, and there are lots of movies as well, where if you talk about old movie called Matrix, machines basically overtake humans, they start attacking and so on. Or there are again some other misconceptions where they can replace human jobs. So these are the imaginations which are there and so on. But let me put it this way. First one, machine learning or artificial intelligence is something which is there in the industry some way or the other since long time back. So previously people used to calculate everything using hands and or calculator. Right now we have access to do that, which is kind of automation. But when it goes to the next level called artificial intelligence, it will definitely remove the base level jobs. So the routine or mundane jobs will be replaced by automated machines and so on. People needs to be more creative. So that's the first disadvantage. Any basic or routine things, you cannot survive with those basic skills. You have to go to the next level. Second, are they really going to, let's assume that we create that artificial brain and they go to a next level where they cross paths with humans. For example, if you have watched the movie I, Robot, there are certain rules which are hard coded where machines cannot go beyond these 3 rules. The first rule is you cannot kill a human, something like that. Okay. So whenever we go for artificial intelligence as well, we will certainly put some limits to that. So since we have these limits and constraints, I hope that certainly is safe. There is also one movie called Stealth. It's a movie on artificial intelligence where one of the fighter aircraft was given intelligence. It starts reading all the Google songs, emotions, and everything. And irrespective of giving military commands, it still has that soft heart, and instead of killing people, at times it helps people. So it's simple. At times, whatever that is there in the movie, which is futuristic, is gonna be the present very soon. So again, those are very wild imaginations. Coming to our future jobs or career paths, these are opportunities. Everything is an opportunity. AI is an opportunity. If you're planning for searching for jobs in the future, AI is an opportunity. If you're planning to have a startup in the future, you can have a new startup based on AI. So that is how I put it. We can go to the next question.
Audience, if there is any question, please put up in the chat box. Sir, as of now, there is no more question.
You're free to make any mistakes as well. If you have any question, irrespective of small or big, you can ask. Because I don't believe that any stupid can be a stupid question. So any question is the right question. Please.
One more question Yogarajan has put up. If we want any application to download, how to know that the application is secure or not?
Okay. So you're basically talking about downloading applications or any other softwares.
Yeah.
So this is one common problem in any companies. Since you are not joined any company, probably it's something new for you. But this is a basic hygiene. So what we generally have is, first of all, antivirus. Antivirus should be there and should be updated all the time. By default, if any new virus or malicious malware is identified, software will be updated real time if it is connected to internet. If not, every 4 hours, this antivirus tries to update itself. Of course, if it is connected to internet. So that is the first check that you should do. Let us assume that there is no antivirus or antivirus is not updated. In this scenario, you are trying to download a software or a file from the internet, or even from the email, you're downloading an attachment. That email attachment or the software can do big problems. For example, there is one thing called ransomware. What this ransomware does is it encrypts the complete hard disk. So let us say you download that, it automatically gets working. It encrypts the laptop. When you try to log in into the laptop, it will not allow you to log in. Let us say I am a banking company, and in my company there is a server where all the sensitive information, data, account data, and everything is there. And let us assume the ransomware somehow got into this server. It encrypts the complete server. So I cannot tell my bank account users how much money is there in their account, because all that account data got encrypted. So this is going to be a very huge problem. Or forget about this. Let us say there is something called botnets. So some softwares, malicious softwares, what they do, they get installed in our laptop. They use our laptop to do malicious activity somewhere else. For example, there is something called DOS attack. So let us say I'm talking about Flipkart Big Billion Day. Let us say the Flipkart is equipped to handle 1,000 customers. But I create botnets where they pose as if they're genuine users. They hit 1 lakh times. So all the Flipkart servers will be down. They cannot handle genuine users at all. So someone can keep that malicious software in my system and use my system as a botnet to do DOS attack or DDoS attack into the Flipkart systems. So even this can be another possibility. It can, of course, if you don't know all those big terms, in simple terms, it can slow down your server system. You cannot open your other softwares, or you cannot watch your things properly. You'll not be able to, let's say you have put some sensitive data in your laptop. Let's say your personal pictures, your family details, and so on. all the data can be, taken off through internet by someone outside remotely, and they can do damage to you again. So these are different examples.
Okay, sir. As the time is short, let us request all the audience, if there is any more question, let them put it up in mail form. Sir, you please share your mail ID so that in case of any more question, they can put it.
It's harikishan@gmail.com. So if any of you people have any questions later, you can reach out to me through that.
Okay, Hari, we will formally wind up the session. So this is the time for vote of thanks. The first heartfelt thanks goes to Engineer Harikrishnan Enugula.
Thank you.
Sir, really, there are no words to say thanks to you. On behalf of our HOD and the staff from Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Kamaraj College of Engineering and Technology, we thank you very much for your valuable presentation, as well as sparing time to help the youngsters so that they can choose the career in future. And in the chat box also we have a lot of comments that the presentation was nice. Really, the way you have started your presentation, where we are, where we were, and what next, is appreciable. The brand new world what you have introduced is really astonishing. The examples given by you for each technologies are really live and made us to understand them well. The list of programming languages what you have known, even being a non-CSIT student, will really enlighten our students, and our faculties will certainly quote this in their own classes. Also, you have said the secret of learning such languages. It will surely help the audience. The security awareness given by you is really good and will be useful for everyone. The thought process given by you is also nice. So once again, we thank you. We thank you very much, sir. The next thanks go to all the participants. Really, even though it was just 1 hour program what we have scheduled, it is around 1.5 hours. Our audience were still present listening to you. So thank you very much, all audience. And our heartfelt thanks go to our college management, our principal, Dr. Anantachari, Vice Principal Madam, HOD CSC, Dr. Indra Devi Madam, for their blessing and guidance for conducting this program. And we have a team of members from our CSC team who are working background for making this program success, right from the brochure team to feedback team and registration team. I thank personally all of them. I also thank my co-coordinator, Engineer Anand sir. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Till we meet in the next program.